All right, Algebra 1A students, welcome to part 2 of lesson 5.3. We're continuing in this video to talk about slope-intercept form. And today we're going to actually write equations in slope-intercept form using graphs of the lines and using 2 points that are on that line. That'll be a little bit more complicated when we get there. But we're going to start by just writing equations in slope-intercept form from a graph of a line that's shown. So if we look over here at this graph, this linear equation right here, or sorry, this graph of a line, we have to identify 2 things if we're going to write an equation in slope-intercept form. One of those is the slope of the line. The other is the intercept of the line. Okay? The easier one to do from the graph is actually the intercept, the y-intercept, because the y-intercept, as we've talked about before, is just where the line crosses this y-axis here. And we can see that that happens right here at a y value of -2, right? A y value of -2. So we know at the end of my equation, right, my equation is in the form y equals mx, m times x, plus my b value. My b value at the end needs to be a -2 or a -2. So we can already eliminate choice A and choice B because those both end with a +1, and that's not my b value. My y-intercept is not a +1, it's a -2, so it must either be C or it must be D. Okay, the other thing we need to find, as I mentioned, is the slope of this line. Slope is easy and fun as long as we remember rise over run. Okay, slope is easy and fun as long as you remember rise over run. So to get from this point here, that y-intercept point, to the next point, which I suppose would be right up here, the question is, what is my rise and what is my run? How far up am I going and how far over? And in this case, my rise is up 2 squares and my run is over 1 square. Up 2 over 1 to get to that next point. So this right here is my slope, 2 over 1. And we know that 2 over 1 is really the same as 2, so my choice would be here, letter D. Or if I'm writing it myself, I would just say y equals, my slope number comes first, that's 2. I could put 2 over 1 if I want to, times x plus my b value, which in this case we mentioned is a -2. You can... We can also say 2x minus 2 instead of plus a -2. That's what they did here, 2x minus 2 instead of plus a negative. So I want you to take a look now at this graph here, this linear equation right here, and then take a look at that problem, then come on back and I'll show you what we should have.
Please come to the office. Header 5, please come to the office.
All right, sorry for that interruption there. This equation should say y equals -1x plus 2. The plus 2 comes from our y-intercept being a +2 at the end of the equation, and the -1 comes from our slope from one point to the next being down 1 and over 1, down 1 and over 1. So it turns out to be a -1 over 1, down 1 and over 1. Okay, -1 over 1. So that's writing equations from a graph, identifying the y-intercept number, and identifying the slope going from one point to the next, down and over or up and over, rise and run, as we mentioned before. Now, in addition to writing equations from the graphs, we also need to be able to write the equations from a set of 2 points. Okay, a set of 2 points. So let's look now at this problem here. It says, what equation in slope-intercept form represents the line that passes through these 2 points, 2, 1, and 5, -8? Again, we need to find 2 things if we're going to be able to do this. We need to find the slope of this line, and we need to find the y-intercept of this line. Okay, so hopefully we remember from a previous section what the slope formula is. The slope formula is, if we remember, y2 minus y1, meaning subtract the two y's, and then over x2 minus x1. So we take the two y coordinates and subtract them, take the two x coordinates and subtract them, and then simplify that fraction, okay? In this case, our two y coordinates are -8 and a 1. So it's -8, take away 1, which is a -9. The bottom is 5, take away 2, that's a 3. So my slope ends up being -9 divided by 3 is -3. Okay, so my slope here is -3. My y-intercept, unfortunately, is in many ways harder to find. It's going to take a little bit more work to find my y-intercept than it did my slope. What I know right now about this equation is that it is somewhere in the form y equals -3 times x plus some number at the end that I don't know yet. Okay? So y equals -3 times x plus some number that I don't actually know yet, right? Because -3 is my slope number, so that I know is in front of the x. I do not know the b value yet. However, the good news for me is that these 2 points up here have to work in this equation because I know that this line goes through both of those 2 points. So in this case, my x value is 2, my y value is 1, and I can replace my x value here and my y value here with the x and y value from one of these 2 points. So I'm going to instead have an equation that says my y value here is 1 equals -3 times 2 plus b. Okay. Now, -3 times 2 is a -6, so -6 plus b has to equal 1. And in order to get b all by itself, I just have to get rid of a -6 by adding that. That goes away. I'll plus 6 on the other side, and b equals 7. So now I know my slope number just from my little formula, y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1, and I know my y-intercept number because I plugged in one of my xy points into this equation, y equals -3x plus b, because I knew the slope was -3, and I found my b value, what it has to be for these 2 points to work. Okay, you'd find exactly the same answer if you used the other point, 5, -8. You'd get exactly the same answer. Okay, so now that I have my slope and my y-intercept, I should be ready to write my final equation. Y equals my slope number, x, plus my y-intercept number, my b value, which is 7. I was about to write a b again, I apologize, plus 7. Okay, plus 7. Y equals -3x plus 7. So this is an equation that is in y equals mx plus b slope-intercept form that goes through these 2 points. My first step was to find the slope. My second step was to find the y-intercept using the slope and one of the 2 points that I already knew. Okay? It's a little bit more involved process, takes a little bit more time, but I would like you to try one on your own now using these 2 points, 3, -2, and 1, -3. Find the slope first, find the y-intercept second using one of the 2 points, then come on back and I will show you what we should have. Okay, once I find my slope here in this problem, we should be able to find that that slope is a 1/2. I know it's negative over negative, but that becomes positive. So then I write this equation, y equals 1/2 x plus b. And now I can take one of these 2 points here, plug in my y value and my x value, and find my b value, which I think is also going to be something with a 1/2 on it. Okay, so I'm going to use this point here just because it's a 1, and I think that's going to be easier. My y value is a -3, so I'll replace that with a -3. That's equal to 1/2 times my x value, which here in this case is a 1, and plus b goes at the end because I don't know what that is yet. Now 1/2 times 1 is just 1/2. So in order to solve for b and figure out what that equals, I just have to get rid of that 1/2, and I can do that by subtracting 1/2 on both sides. Right? Because the other side still says -3, so I minus 1/2 on both sides. That goes away, and I minus 1/2 here as well. -3 minus another 1/2 brings me to -3.5, or -3.5 if you're using decimals. That is equal to my b value. And now at this point I'm ready to write my equation because my b value is here, -3.5. My slope is up here at positive 1/2. So my equation will say y equals 1/2 x. And I could say plus -3.5, but I'm just going to say minus 3 and 1/2. Okay? If you have any questions about writing equations in slope-intercept form, either from graphs or from a pair of 2 points, please make a note to ask me in class tomorrow. Otherwise, that's all I have for you. Have a wonderful night. I get this going.